Down for a second, get to that video. It's 8 things I wish I knew before starting phase 2. Just gonna jump right into that one here. So here we go, boys. A video by WillE. 8 things I wish I knew before starting phase 2, Season of Discovery. I have no idea what is about to go through here, but I'm guessing it's things you want to know before starting. And I'm just gonna start this video off, or like this part off here right here, by saying that phase 2 might be the best time to start. Like, if you haven't played Season of Discovery yet, phase 2 might be the best time to start. And I'll say that because at the moment, level cap is level 40. We have 50% bonus experience from phase 1 content, so level 1 to 25 goes really fast. In addition, dungeon quests and elite quests now give you more experience, so leveling up in phase 1 and also phase 2 is even faster now than it used to be. On top of that, if you didn't do BFD, like if you're joining now, you obviously didn't do BFD in phase 1, you can still do BFD in phase 2, and arguably finding a group right now is more easy than ever, especially finding a group of geared people, because geared people still want to do BFD for their final pieces, plus people do it as a level up raid. You get like 1 level for a BFD run. How much you get depends on your current level and the rested experience you have, but you get like 25,000 experience baseline from 1 run. So a lot of people with really good gear still do BFDs all the time. So if you're a new player that haven't played SOD yet and you're considering giving it a try, now might be the perfect time. Also, we're only 2 weeks into phase 2, so you're not really missing out on anything, and I feel like when future phases comes out, the gap gets bigger. Like, you level faster, but at the moment you just have to level to level 40, and then suddenly you're at the end game. In phase 3 you have to go all the way to 50, and phase 4 all the way to 60. Right now the gap between the start and end game is only about like what, 24, maybe 30-40 hours, depending on how fast you level. Either way, let's give this video a watch, boys.
Phase 2 of Season of Discovery is well underway, giving us tons of new content, runes, gear, profession items, and so much more. As expected, despite data mining, there have been so many new things to discover which we didn't know about at all pre-release of the phase, and having now checked out a bunch of the content myself, I thought it would be good to share some tips which might help you out, whether it's for pushing your mains through those last few levels up to 40, or on an alt if perhaps you've been missing out on something. I'll also be covering a few general points for the level 25 to 40 bracket too, which you may want to keep in mind whatever point you're at in the game. So that said, let's begin. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, War Thunder. War Thunder is an epic military action free-to-play multiplayer game available on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and Mac. It has combat on land, air, and seas, and takes you through over a century of vehicle progression and tactics. War Thunder provides players with an expansive battlefield where they can engage in fierce combat using a diverse range of military equipment.
I'm not gonna lie though, those graphics are kinda pumping. Yeah, those graphics are kind of not that bad.
From World War II era tanks to modern day fighter jets. War Thunder also has a unique damage model that eliminates the need for traditional health bars. Instead, every hit on an enemy vehicle has realistic consequences, such as disabling tracks or igniting fuel tanks. This puts strategy over brute force into combat. The big recent update for War Thunder is Air Superiority, bringing new advanced vehicles into the game such as the T-90M or the Su-27. There is also a new map, Volcano Valley, inspired by Kamchatka, which allows you to test the latest aircrafts in battles among volcanoes. There's never been a better time to start, and at the moment all new players and those who haven't played War Thunder for half a year or more will receive some special bonuses, including rentals for the P-40E1 aircraft and N4 tank for a week, along with 3 unique skins for them, a special decorator Eagle of Valor, 100,000 Silver Lions, 3 premium vehicles for a week of premium account, and even more gifts. And you can check this out via the link in the description.
Hey,
Many thanks
I
to
love free
War Thunder
stuff,
for the
man.
sponsor today. Let's get back to WoW. So before the release of Phase 2, Blizzard said there were going to be new ways to gain experience to offset for the fact that players had decided to keep questing for gold in Phase 1. So how good are these new methods of gaining experience? Well, first of all is the fact that between levels 1 and 25 there is now a persistent 50% experience buff in the game. So if you didn't quite finish off leveling something, it's extremely fast to catch up for Phase 2 content.
Yep.
And with the amount of layers out in the world, low-level questing is practically uncontested, and I could very much foresee this 50% experience buff being extended to future phases as the level cap goes up. The second new way to gain experience was through the Black Fathoms Deep raid, where the bosses will now grant XP, and a full completion is about 23 to 25,000 experience,
25.
or thereabouts. However, Black Fathoms Deep is still on a 3-day lockout, but if you do it at level 25, that's going to give you the majority.
Like I said, I think right now is a good time to start, because I just want to add this. If you're doing BFD, like let's just say you get to level 25 and you are brand new to the game, you have no gear, a lot of people will have gear, so you will have way less people to compete against when it comes to getting gear as well. So you will just gear yourself up really fast while getting experience as well, and be ready to tackle on Phase 2, right? So instead of gearing up every single reset like we did in Phase 1, you can just skip that, and one run you might be lucky and get full BIS, like who knows. It's way less people to compete against, at least, for the loot.
Majority of a level, and for something which takes about 30 or so minutes to get through, it's definitely very worth doing.
Yeah.
Third is the fact that the waylaid supplies which drop between levels 25 and 40 will now also grant a chunk of XP, and yeah, I would not count on these as being a good way to level up. A lot of the boxes are just prohibitively expensive to fill due to the high demand for raw materials at the moment, so
yeah.
I'd think of these as just being more a way to advance your reputation with the Azeroth Commerce Authority or Joritar Supply and Logistics. For me, as somebody who had done a lot of pre-questing in Phase 1, I went and handed in my quests, it got me midway through 26, I did BFD, that got me to 27, and then I just went and grinded Stockades to level 30, and went back to my regular questing. But speaking of the new reputations, you'll remember in Phase 1 they had a rune locked behind Honored, so everyone kind of had to get it done. Well, until they lowered the requirement to friendly, that was. In Phase 2, comparatively, there isn't much of a need to push to Revered anytime soon. The main unlock you get at Revered is the recipe for the Lesser Arcane Elixir, which alchemists can make, and that's just a new raid consumable, and that is pretty much it. Another change is you can have up to 12...
I'm just gonna add this, by the way. I grinded out the rep 4 days ago for the recipe, and I made 500 gold profit in 2 days. So if you're into gold making, that recipe is definitely worth grabbing, man. Especially if you time it correctly. A lot of gold profit. I spent like 2 hours grinding rep. We have a video on how to grind the rep as well, as fast as possible, so you can get like several thousand of the rep per hour. Depending on like your server, I'm playing on Living Flame, it's the most popular server, and I still got 7,000 rep per hour. It's like really fast to get the rep right now, and if you do have alchemy, it's definitely worth looking into.
Waylaid supplies at any given time between your bank and your bags up from 1. Personally, I just banked them as I leveled, then went on to see which ones felt cost efficient to fill, because some of them, like Mithril Blunderbuss for example, would be over 10 gold to fill, and I'm not about to do that. Still, in a future phase, this reputation...
In week 1, some of them were like 20 gold plus to fill. And the funny thing is, they sold. Like, I sold several turtle scale bracers for 12 gold each, and I think you need 2 of them, right? It's 2 or 3, but I'm quite sure it's 2, and they were selling for over 10 gold per bracer. So 20 gold plus to fill up 1 box, and people did it, man. They wanted the rep plus the experience.
Will surely go to Exalted, and at that point in time you have to imagine there's going to be some pretty cool rewards behind it, so do work towards this at least on your main. It's just you don't need to rush it at all. Next is a quick one, and just a reminder really, if you did your faction's Warsong Gulch reputation during Phase 1, there will be level 38 versions of the neck and rings at Honored and weapons at Revered that you can buy. These are pretty easy upgrades to put on once you're getting to a higher level, so you might as well go and grab them. Also, the weekly event for Ashenvale, we just need to loot that item from any enemy faction NPC, will still award 1000 rep at level 40. It was bugged at the start of phase 2 to give 100, but if you do it from here on out, it'll give 1000 again. Next is about gold income. Well, I thought Blizzard were gonna go easy on us because, you know, it's a seasonal server and all that. We don't need to put excessive gold sinks in the game, right? Well, it turns out actually there are going to be a bunch of gold sinks at level 40, so having a gathering character or just a class you can farm gold on is not a bad idea. Mount costs were put back up from 40 gold to
There's going to be more gold things coming as well, by the way. They've already alluded to that by talking about the dual talent specialization. And in every single interview, I've seen 3 different developers talk about this. They want it to be a gold sink, which to me that kind of makes sense because we do have a lot more raw gold in the economy right now because people have been doing quests at level 25 for raw gold, and now in phase 2 people do the same thing at level 40. So we have a lot more gold coming in than we usually do in Classic WoW. Like people, once again, we get a lot more gold from doing the quests, right? So there's more gold circulating in the economy, and this is Blizzard's way to take some of that gold away through adding gold sinks. I don't think that's a bad thing, but in a seasonal server it can be awkward to have like gold sinks happening and you don't have all that gold all the time, plus you don't even want to spend that much gold when it comes to a seasonal server. So, I don't know. Just wanted to mention there might be more coming.
80 once again just before the patch dropped, and a bunch of the new endgame profession recipes will set you back 25 gold each, and the ranks of your abilities start to get quite a bit more expensive between 25 and 42. Saying that, bonus gold from quests in some cases is up to 4 gold from elite quests at level 40, and items such as elemental fire, earth, all those kind of things are still dropping from your standard herb and mining nodes. So if you don't mind carrying on questing and gathering after level 40, you should be okay in terms of how much gold you can make, but just know that Blizzard have up to the amount of gold sinks in the game. Next is about the quest for the cozy sleeping bag. In short, it's a lot of running across the world, but it's well worth doing, because if you do it when you're leveling, the quest by itself, as in the whole series, will already give about 15,000 experience, which isn't half bad. You'll also get 8 rations of student fodder. Each of these will give you 20% of a total level worth of rested XP, and this appears to be 20% of your bar whichever level you're at, so it gains much more value when it's used towards level 40. And if you're trying to get the most out of them, I'll probably start using them around mid-level 36 to 37. The item does have a 30-minute cooldown though, you can't just pop them all at once. I would make use of the student fodder in phase 2 because who knows, Blizzard might not like people saving them for later phases.
Yeah, let me add to that. I've seen a lot of people adding that to their phase 3, phase 4 prep and stuff. Like, that's a high risk, high reward type of play, because first of all, I personally don't think Blizzard will want you to use them in later phases. They basically nerfed the Warzone marks for that as well, and I think they will do the same thing with student fodder. They will make it so it's not usable past level 40 and then give you some brand new student fodder, like a greater student fodder or something for level 40 plus, as like a phase 3 kind of item. I don't think saving them is a good idea, but it will be high risk, high reward, because if it works out, then you are so far ahead of the pack. People that use their student fodder, for example, you will be so far ahead when it comes to leveling fast in the next phase. So high risk, high reward, but personally, I'm using all of mine, and my recommendation here is to start using them at level 37. That way, like, you have 8 of them, they take half an hour to pop each, so you have 4 hours of complete rested experience, which usually takes you all the way to level 40 in a good group. You might even consider popping them before 37, like 36 plus. It really depends on how you're leveling. If you're questing, definitely start earlier, because then you get a lot of quests or like experience from your quest. So questing, start earlier, dungeon farming, start later.
And they could easily amend a food-related item to say it's gone bad after having sat in your backpack for such a long period of time.
Oh yeah!
Now, if you did this quest at level 40, obviously you don't get to benefit from the fodder, but on the flip side, with bonus gold kicking in, you probably made around 12 gold or so, which again, isn't bad. As for the fodder, maybe you can use them next phase, but again, something tells me Blizzard isn't gonna like people excessively preparing for the future. And of course, at the end of the quest, you get the cozy cozy sleeping bag, which when rested in for 3 minutes will give a 3% bonus to all XP gains for 3 hours, and this effect does persist through death. 3% will add up. It may not be super noticeable.
If you got the bag early, by the way, it didn't persist through death. Because, like, we got the bag and we went to Scarlet Monastery as alliance. We obviously died on the way in and we lost these stacks. Good times, but they fixed that though, so it persists now, which is perfect. I definitely recommend getting the bag to anyone, by the way. Like, new player, not new player. We grabbed the bag at level 32, and it was really worth the time because, first of all, you get 8 student fodder, giving you 20% experience or 20% rested experience each, so it's 1.6 levels of rested experience, which really makes you level fast. You also get about, I don't know how much experience you end up getting, but I want to say about 14,000 from doing the quest itself. It's 4 quests, 4 to 5 quests, so yeah, you get a lot of experience by doing the quest line. It takes you between half an hour and 1 hour depending on your class and your Hearthstone usage, so it takes you some time for sure, but it's worth doing, absolutely.
Noticeable during this bracket, but 40 to 50 and especially 50 to 60 is a lot of XP, so it'll save you a few hours probably. For me, I'm going to be doing this quest on all of my alts for sure, and I think the main benefit of it at the moment is the fodder, just to get those last levels out the way nice and fast. Again, it's a lot of running, but I think it's totally worth doing, so do look that one up. Moving on, I have the Stranglethorn Vale event, and it is predictably absolutely brutal. If you haven't checked in on it yet, it occurs at midnight and every 3 hours thereafter, and much like Ashenvale when that first came out, it's already undergone several different changes. Well, PvP is just so difficult to get right in this game when it's so inherently unfair, and players will do whatever it takes to get the rewards in the most degen ways. Initially, players were able to just basically graveyard camp and farm people, enabling them to earn the rewards from the event super fast. But Blizzard didn't like that. Now when you res instead, you're pacified and invisible for 20 seconds. The goal of this is to allow you to escape the death ball and res up and recover, but then other people just phase out of invisibility next to you and it just turns into a bunch of skirmishes. But hey, I think it's an improvement over what it was at least. The idea behind the event is it of course being free for all, but realistically you need to be part of a 5-player group to get much done, otherwise you're pretty much voluntarily offering yourself up as a sacrifice to the roaming 5-man gank squads. Maybe you can get some good results solo if you're—
Did I just see that right? Does he have the name MMORPG? That is insane, dude. But yeah, I do like the event, by the way. It used to be, it's much better now than it used to be after they put in the immunity. Like, when you rest right now, you have 20 seconds of immune to damage, which to me is so much better than what it used to be. Like, the graveyard camping was just so bad. So 20 seconds immunity made the event so much more durable and livable, like it's so much more fun. It's still not my preferred version of the event, but it's way better now than it used to be, and it's honestly not that bad. Especially if you enjoy PvP, it can actually be quite fun.
you're playing a god tier PvP class such as a Shadow Priest, but for the rest of us mere mortals, you probably do want to be finding a group. And it has gone a bit under the radar as well, but regular NPCs defeated during the event also grant 1 blood, and quite often, at least in my experience, there are groups forming who basically just form a 5-man and then go to an out of the way area and farm NPCs during the event. The idea is that you pick somewhere that's far enough away from altars and just PvP hotspots, where it's unlikely that people go out of their way to hunt you down. So you're not hard forced to do PvP to get the rewards after all, but it's probably going to take you a bit longer doing it this way. It's also worth a mention because I know we're early on into the phase, but the type of PvP on offer in this event is just not casual friendly, and if you're in STV and you're a lower level, you're going to get farmed, and there isn't much you can do about it. The event even makes Flight Masters aggro in Booty Bay, so try not to right-click them by accident either. I've seen that happen once or twice. You can turn the event off at Zandalari Emissaries, and Blizzard just added a bunch more of them into the game now, including ones in Tirisfal Glades, Ratchet, Booty Bay, and more. They're all over the place. Basically, before you get into Stranglethorn Vale, you're probably going to see one of these trolls with a huge blood type icon over their head. Talk to them, and they will disable the event for you. This just turns off free for all, however. Opposite faction players can, and probably will, still attack you. And when you turn it off on a PvE server, you will still be flagged for 5 minutes. But yeah, the event so far is definitely trending towards being friendly for more higher level players. You should group if you really want in, and above all, you should not expect it to be particularly fair or even balanced, because that's world PvP in a nutshell. Next is to look out for upgraded items when running dungeons. Now these upgraded items are aimed basically in their entirety towards casters, hybrid DPS, and healers. If you're a physical damage dealer, there kind of just isn't anything new because your item options are already pretty good. And caster gear can
Yeah, it's also just because we got so much plus. The thing is, in Classic WoW, we don't have that much plus damage or plus healing gear when it comes to casters. We get intellect and stamina. But in BFD, we ended up getting a lot of like plus spell power and plus healing gear. That if they want to make a gear from quest somewhat comparable and competitive to like new people that want to do like the same DPS, they have to do this. Otherwise they have to do BFD, right? To get any spell power. Because otherwise quest loot and even dungeon loot literally only would give you intellect and stamina. You usually, like before SOD, didn't get any spell power until like high 50s. Really depending on the dungeon, like Sulfarak and stuff started giving you some spell power, maybe SM as well. But for the most part, until level 40, you were stuck only with stamina, intellect and spirit. So definitely a good change, by the way. I think that's really good. And the itemization we have right now is personally what I personally want to see all the time in Classic for casters. Just make casters much better.
comparatively sucks, but modern Blizzard understands itemization better, so they've gone and updated a bunch of things and given them some spell power. So if you missed out on BFD loot and you're feeling behind, you're going to have plenty of chances for upgrades between 25 and 40. A number of items in all these Scarlet Monastery dungeons, Razor Fen Downs, and even a few in Alderman have received updated stats, so keep an eye out for them. And I'd recommend getting the Atlas Loot add-on for Season of Discovery too, just so you can have a bit of an advanced look about what can drop. It's a similar story with crafting professions. A huge number of items have received updates from tailoring, leatherworking, and blacksmithing. So whatever your armor type or spec, providing you're a caster of course, you should be able to find a decent upgrades for not unreasonable prices when it comes to the updated items. Again, Atlas Loot Season of Discovery is great here, would very much recommend. And if you needed another reason to go and run dungeons, we have the skill and or quality of life books that have been added in Phase 2. These range from things which are kind of nice to have, such as reducing the cost and increasing the duration of Power Word Fortitude or Arcane Intellect, to completely game-changing abilities like an out-of-combat resurrection for druids, summoning portal for warlocks, Shadow Fiend for priests, or a very powerful version of Aspect of the Viper for hunters. And there isn't...
Those quality of life books have been really good. The one thing I would like to see in addition here is Mage Table. I mean, I'm a mage main here, so I'm kind of biased, but I would love to see a Mage Table. Like the ones we have in Wrath, just made like scaled down to Classic. It would also be fun to see because we have never had that. We just have to like keep crafting and trading. And this was much more of a hassle at the start for me because we have a brand new rank of water, which made only 2 items. Like you have to like craft, get 2 waters, and then craft, get 2 waters, and you went really quick. So you would have to evocate and drink between crafting. If I was going to craft water for my whole raid team, like I would be stuck crafting for hours upon end. Maybe not hours, but like you get the point, it took a long time to craft. They have made some quality of life here, like quality of life changes, and we now make 10 water per craft, which is definitely a big step in the right direction, but I would love to see what a table would look like, personally.
A ton of discovering which needs to be done on these either, as Blizzard has put basically every single book in the game that I'm aware of either on Interrogator Vicious, that's the first boss in Scarlet Monastery Graveyard, or Blood Mage Thanos, who is the second and final boss of the same dungeon. Now the books can drop from the rare spawns inside the graveyard too, and reportedly have a chance to drop from bosses in the other Scarlet Monastery dungeons too, but Graveyard seems to be the place to go to get them. I can say on my lock I got each of the 2 books off the 2 bosses in SM Graveyard, so worked for me. So what I'm saying...
Was I really unlucky, by the way, because I was doing SM Graveyard farming to level up, and I leveled from level 31 to level 34 in Graveyard. I don't remember how long that took, but it was multiple resets, at least 40 resets, maybe more as well, and we saw one Arcane Intellect book, like one for mages, in 3 or 4 levels of farming. We saw one book. Is that just me being unlucky, or are they really low drop trends, or has that been fixed? I did see one more later, like we actually got one, so we ended up getting 2 books, but in our first like 40 plus resets, we only got 1 book.
Saying is, you should do Scarlet Monastery Graveyard at some point between 25 and 40. It's very worth doing to get your quality of life bucks. And finally, I want to bring something up which I think is worth talking about as kind of a general point for a seasonal server with class changes being a main theme to it. And that's the idea of getting used to having a main character again. We are playing vanilla, things are slower paced, and it's worth considering your main pick for more reasons than I just want to be the best at doing this one thing all the time. More so than ever in World of Warcraft before, you should pick something you know you're gonna like, even if you're not always the best.
Yes.
Again, this is the first time playing Classic where we cannot be very sure of what will be the best due to the new runes and class balancing. In every version of Classic so far, we've been able to make a pretty good educated guess as to what will be top of the meters. In Season of Discovery, one phase you might feel like a king, and the next one you're like a peasant in the fields. And Classic is a game where typically you cannot raid like half a dozen different characters, simply because everything takes so long to do. Time to level, to find the runes, to farm consumes, to farm gold, gathering world buffs, and so on. And coming off the back of Wrath of the Lich King, where Blizzard made every single effort possible to allow you to reroll on a dime, vanilla is a huge paradigm shift. Sure, we're only level 40 now, but the levels are going to keep going up, and the thing you have picked to play and invested all that time into just may or may not be as good as you anticipated, and you're gonna have to be okay with that. In Wrath of the Lich King, you can boost a...
I've seen this question a lot, like what should I play in SOD, and I keep saying the same thing. Find a class that you thoroughly enjoy playing and can see yourself playing in like half a year. Find a class that is fun, because in SOD so far it's almost impossible to tell what is going to top the meters. They do like weekly updates for classes, like both tuning, nerfing, adding new spells, making sure things work differently, nerfing Star Surge, then fixing Star Surge, buffing it again. Hunters got nerfed like 10 times in phase 1, then buffed 15 times, then nerfed like 10 times again. So it's just like buffing, nerfing, buffing, nerfing. You never know what is going to be top. Even now, like, Classic WoW is a game where warriors have always been top. In phase 2, we have melee hunters being on top, and then we have like mages doing good, fire mages that is, we have warlocks doing good, and shadow priest. We're living in a world where shadow priests are doing really good DPS. That is where we are. So find a class that you think is fun and stick to that one as a main. Alternatively, do like me and level up a bunch of alts and find out what you think is fun playing, because what's fun right now in Season of Discovery is going to be different from Classic WoW, because we have all the brand new runes. So like a rogue in Season of Discovery is not the same as a rogue in Classic WoW. It's built off the same principle, it has the same kind of base spells and base functions, but a lot of brand new stuff. So just try things out, find something that works and that you think is fun, and there we go.
Character with real money and then get boosted in game straight into heroics, gammas, and then raid within the space of a week. Well, you have to grind it out a bit, but it's very much possible. One does not simply re-roll from one main to another within the space of a week in vanilla, even with mage boosting. Things take time, and your main character is probably going to remain your main for a long time to come. So just be ready for the changes and pick something because you know you can have a good time playing it, even if it is not the best at everything. I'm saying this now because Blizzard rightfully just took a huge amount of power out of Star Surge for balanced druids, and they've tried to redistribute that power into Starfire. Results may vary for how successful the change was, but having an instant cast 6-second cooldown spell that crits for over 1,000 just isn't gonna fly. Shadow Red Death is gonna be next, by the way, alongside melee hunters damage, if both of those things haven't already happened by the time this video's out. But yeah, buffs are gonna happen, nerfs are gonna happen, and it's hard to reroll or just play multiple characters in vanilla due to the high time investment needed. Or you can always just play a warrior, surely that's the safe pick, right? Well, you'd think so, but some bosses in Gnomeregan have more armor than Molten core bosses if what I've heard is correct, so we just don't know what Blizzard has cooking for the future. What I'm trying to say is don't overly chase the meta to play what is very good each single phase, because I think you're going to burn yourself out on the seasonal server. Pick something you think looks cool, and if you want to min-max it after that, have fun doing that, but re-rolling excessively is pretty tricky to do unless you have a lot of free time. And that's it for the video. Let me know your impressions on Phase 2 so far. I've been enjoying it a lot myself. The extra talents and new rune combinations have me thinking about a lot of different playstyles that are now opening up, and it's always fun to try and figure out some niche build that lets you do a difficult quest or a particular gold farm. If you made it to the end of the video, do consider dropping a sub on the channel, as I will be covering and breaking down all major Season of Discovery news right here. And finally, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.
There we go, boys. That's the video. How are we feeling? To answer this question, how are you guys feeling about Phase 2? So far, I'm really having a blast. I'm really having a blast in Phase 2, and it's really fun to see how the meta is developing compared to Phase 1, and which classes are doing well now compared to Phase 1. Plus, it's just fun to see all the brand new runes we have. The quality of life increases as well. It's Blizzard listening to the community and just adding stuff based on feedback. It's honestly been great, and I hope they continue doing this. The only thing for me is kind of the homogenization of the runes at the moment, which is both a good and a bad thing. They're making it so that runes, a lot of classes have the same quests to get runes, which is good for the future, like in Phase 3, because let's just put it this way, the Divine Storm, getting that right now, Divine Storm in Phase 1, you can only really bring Paladins, maybe like Paladins and Warlocks, so the less classes are doing the same quest, the harder that rune will be to get if you're behind the curve. Like starting Phase 1, then doing Phase 1 runes. So it's good that a lot of classes are doing the same quest and the same stuff to get runes, but it kind of takes away part of the magic behind getting those runes. Like being a Warlock or a Paladin in Phase 1 and getting those runes, it was like a Paladin or a Warlock experience. Right now, the Dark Riders, for example, that's something that everyone has to do. Well, like, not everyone has to do, but everyone gets something for it. And multiple runes actually has that, where a bunch of people are doing the same stuff to get a certain rune, which to me takes away part of like the unique aspect of doing a hunter quest to get a hunter rune, or doing a mage quest to get a mage rune. It takes away part of that feeling. I don't know. In total though, Phase 2 has been really fun to play so far. And that's the video. The link will be down below, as usual. It's fun, gotta find myself a main, yeah. I'm maining a mage at the moment, but I'm leveling up a hunter as well, and also a warlock. I'm probably gonna go melee hunter on the hunter as long as I don't get nerfed. But the thing is, I'm gonna level the hunter to level 40 and then it gets nerfed before I start doing raids. Thankfully I'm level 39, so we're really close on the hunter as well, but I have 2 mages. So I mean, I'm kinda locked into being a mage at the moment.